Hi there. In this video we'll be covering how to start writing a book. Getting started is tough. It is tough to get started writing a book. Tougher still to keep going. Tougher still to push through the doldrums and the tough times, and just the trouble spots that you face. I want you to get started and feel empowered to keep going. I don't want you to get started and lose momentum and give up. So this video is all about building the insights and the tips and the lessons that are going to help you keep going throughout this process. By the end of this video, you will learn the importance of understanding your book's message, how to dig deep on your book goals, and why good habits can make all the difference. And stay tuned until the end of the video for an opportunity I really think you're going to enjoy. Let's dive in. I think it's awesome that you want to write a book, and I want you to dig deep within yourself and figure out what you want to say. What is the actual message that you want to share here? Why does it matter to you? Why is it so important that you get this documented? That is so crucial to the success of the book. If you can really figure out your why, it's going to make it easier for you to keep going. Think about the hardest things in the world. Think about the most difficult challenges you've faced in your life. Think about overcoming things. Think about finishing. If you want to run a marathon or do something big, buy a house, get the dream job that you always wanted. Think about the struggle that you faced day after day, month after month, year after year to finish that. And that's really what book writing is about too. It's really about understanding why you want to accomplish this thing and what you want to accomplish through this process, because that's going to help motivate you and empower you and inspire you. And it's important to be clear and honest about what you want to accomplish in the book. If you want to write a book to get leads and opportunities for your business, great, be open about that. If you wanted to get you better speaking engagements, great, be open about that. If you wanted to put your message out there so you can reclaim your story and own it, do that. Be honest about it. I think to my friend James, we've been working together on a book for quite a while now, and I'm really proud with how it's coming along. And he's had a business that he's been running for 40 years now, and he's at this stage where he gets to look back and celebrate. He's been honored by huge places. He's been super successful in some capacities, but now is his chance to really own his story. And we've been very clear about that in the writing. Like, we're upfront with the reader. This is why we're writing this book. You need to be 100% clear about this stuff, because if you're not clear about it, the reader's going to get confused. They're going to say, why? Why am I reading this book? Why did they write this book? What's the goal here? By being honest and upfront with the reader about what you're trying to accomplish from the book, I feel like it creates a level of trust. You're being real and honest. It's not always that case. I think a lot of times people try to hide the fact of what they want to accomplish with the book or why they're writing the book. What's the point of this? If you're going to do this hard thing that's really challenging and difficult, that's going to make you want to give up all the time, be clear about why you're writing it. Be clear about why you dragged yourself through the desert in this hopeless case for year after year before finally getting to this place of success. There's a reason why you wanted to write this book. Just be honest about it. Doing your homework is such a big part of the book writing process. And by doing your homework, I mean do your research. Figure out what other books are out there. Figure out how they're constructed. Figure out how your book is different. How does your book set apart? How is your book set apart from every other book out there? What books can you compare it to in this space? You need to really do your digging on this because for one, if you're interested in the traditional publishing path, this is a big part of the book proposal is comparable titles. You want to show a publisher that your book stands up to these other books. But on a separate standpoint, your readers are going to be people who are reading all these other books anyway. So you really want to understand how your book is set apart from other books, because if it's not set apart, then you haven't written a unique book. You really need to figure out what makes your book unique and different. You also have to figure out what creates credibility in this space. The kinds of books that get published in this space. How does your book compare to that? What publishers do they work with? If they're self-publishing, how do they go about publishing their book? Is there a model in place? You want to really think deeply about the other kinds of books in the similar space, because These are going to be compared to your book. You want your book to stand tall against the best of the best. In order to do that, you need to understand what it's going to take to get there. A huge part of the beginning of the writing process is book foundation work. And really, I focus on 3 elements with book foundation work. It is hook, it is audience, and it is outline. The hook. What is the message of the book, the reader takeaway, and how are they going to carry this forward with them in their life? In one sentence, single sentence. If you can't succinctly explain that in one sentence, you don't have a good hook. You know, and a lot of times the hook ends up being your book subtitle in a way. Like your subtitle is really like, what's this book about? The title is something catchy, and then the subtitle is what's the book about. Your subtitle is basically your hook. Because if you can't explain with a couple words or a phrase or a sentence what your book's about to somebody, then it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. Audience, who is your audience? You need to speak to that specific audience. If you can't speak to that specific audience, or you don't know what your audience is, that's a problem. Be as specific as possible. An outline. You want them to keep reading from one chapter to the next. You want to get them so inspired and motivated that they're going to want to keep going through the page break. You know, page breaks and chapter breaks offer a chance for a reader to put the book down. You want them to keep going and keep reading no matter what, because you know that this book is so powerfully constructed that when they're done with the chapter, they're like, oh gosh, I need to keep going. Think about that with the TV show. You know, I've been watching The Chair Company recently with Tim Robinson. It's a funny show. It's on HBO. It's weird and creepy. They're so good with the transitions and the cliffhangers from one episode to the next that, like, one episode ends, it's like, oh gosh, you can't wait to watch another episode. This show is intense in a really good way, and I'm always moved at the end of the episode. I'm like, cliffhanger, boom, I'm in. You know, if you're interested in that kind of comedy, check it out. But, you know, that's the thing you want to do with books. You want to carry forward from one chapter to the next, from one page to the next. You know, books are different from movies in the sense that movies just continue forward. There's one scene and there's another scene and there's another scene. You know, you can pause the movie at different points, but like, it's tough, you know? It's one continuous thing. With books, there's these very clear breaks in the action between chapters when it's like a signal to the reader of like, okay, you can put the book down. You don't want that. You want them to keep going. A huge part of the writing process is practicing good habits. How are you getting the words down? You know, what is your habits and strategies to getting words onto the page and doing writing consistently every day and every week? What little steps are you taking for the big rewards? This could be 10 minutes, taking 10 minutes and saying, I'm just going to do a writing sprint and I'm going to write for 10 minutes. This could be using audio recordings to create voice-to-text transcription for chapters. There's easy ways to gather material, but it's so important for you to think about how you succeed in making progress and building momentum with projects by doing little things. This is going to the gym 3 times a week. This is going for a walk, you know. This is making sure that you're taking steps and taking action to really, really continue forward, you know, because this is a delayed gratification. You know, writing a book is a measure of delayed gratification. So all the things that you're doing now, all of the good habits that you're building now are going to help you down the road. It's really about figuring out how you can get writing done. If it's sitting at the keyboard, if it's, you know, walk and talk with audio recorder, whatever the case may be, it's figuring out how you can get the words onto the page. And then I want you to keep going. Keep going and don't give up. My grandmother always talked about that. Never give up, you know. She would tell us that at weird times, so it didn't really resonate for us. But, you know, it's an important message of keep going and don't give up. Like, writing a book is really hard and you're going to want to give up. You know, this is something that is always coming into play of my life is busy. I don't have the time. I don't have the determination. I don't have the effort. All the things that you're doing in the early going to build that strong foundation, to build that strong momentum is going to help you when you want to hit those points and say, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to keep going. I want you to keep going because your book matters and your book can transform your life. If you can publish this and do the work and get it right, it can have so much big impact in your life, but you need to finish the book first. And you need to write a book that resonates. You know, you need to really spend the time to get it right. This isn't just about cranking something out and putting it online. This is about doing the hard work and sticking with it. So keep going and don't give up. If you want to learn more about how to start writing a book, there's a writing course I created that I'd love for you to check out. It's my Good Book Accountability course, and you can learn more about it at my website. It's goodbookmastery.com. You can click the link below. We meet weekly. We talk through different topics and issues. It's great to see that community element. You know, book writing can be so lonely, but it doesn't need to be. You know, and it's really empowering when we can all collaborate and work together and, you know, really understand the tips and lessons and insights we need to succeed with books. Remember, a good book can change your life. I'm Dan Good. Thanks for watching.